They call it the greatest spectacle in racing, and it lives up to its name. The Indy 500 is 200 laps of crazy fast racing with exciting strategy and often a really cool finish at one of the fastest tracks out there. Also, it turns out that pretty much every single racing game in the world has a version of the Indy 500 in their game, including at least one game that I guarantee you'll never guess. So today I'll be going through the top 8 sim racing games that you can play the Indy 500 in. There's a lot of cool sims here. If you like the list, feel free to leave a like. If you disagree with my list, feel free to let me know in the comments. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into the actual list, I do have a couple of honorable mentions, mostly from sims that you really can't buy anymore. The first two on my list are Forza Motorsport and Project Cars 2. Both of these games are completely unavailable right now. They're not on Steam or on the Microsoft Store. If you have bought the game already, congratulations, you can still play it. And apparently the Indy 500 is great in both. Another honorable mention is Grid Autosport. This one has the Indy 500 included, and while it doesn't look super accurate, you can play it on mobile. This game is available on both Android and iOS, so you can smash out a quick Indy race while waiting for the train or whatever. So it's time to get into my top 8 Indy 500 sims, and my first one on the list, I guarantee none of you are expecting. This sim is Flight Simulator X. In probably the wildest mod of any game I've seen, Autosport Simulations has created an Indy 500 mod for a flight simulator. It runs surprisingly well from what I've seen and is quite similar to real world times. Also, apparently it has multiplayer in it. Stuff like this makes me so proud of modders, and it makes you realize how passionate the sim racing and the modding communities are. I'm glad this exists. It's super wacky, but very, very cool. Next up on this list is Indy 500, the arcade game, and this game rules. I want to put it higher up the list, but I can imagine the sim racing purists would be very, very angry. This game features the Indy 500 track and some fast slipstream racing, and this game also features 2 other tracks, which are basically bizarro versions of Laguna Seca and Surfers Paradise. This is a great game, and you can emulate it today if you have a Model 2 emulator. Number 6 on this list is IndyCar Series 2005. Now, this game is from Codemasters, the developers of F1 games right now, who are currently working on F1 23. I actually played a bunch of this game as a kid. It has an option to race the Indy 500 directly from the main menu, and it features a full qualifying simulation with a pole day and a bumper day included. You genuinely need to qualify for the race to actually make the grid and actually compete in the race itself. The cars are pretty fun to drive. There are pit stops and tyre wear and all of that. You can run a full season of Indy. It is a bit old and a bit arcadey, but it is a great mid-2000s version of the Indy 500. Number 5 on my list is a legit MS-DOS game from 1989, the 80s. This one is Indy 500 The Simulation, and it is the OG original Papyrus game. Dave Kamer was the game designer on this, and he would go on to eventually develop iRacing. So if you are a fan of iRacing, this is the true root of where that came from. It's one of the first racing sims available in the entire world, and it has a surprising amount of simulation elements. There are cautions, there's damage, and the races can go for a full 200 laps. Also, you can change a bunch of setup options, which is wild, and it actually changes the way the car drives. It's quite difficult to play this game now. I'm playing it basically on a keyboard, but I can't explain how good it is for its time. You can genuinely feel the car understeer and oversteer while playing. Also, DOS can be emulated straight from your internet browser, so you can run it on basically any PC. Number 4 for the best Indy 500 sim is a classic sim racing game, Assetto Corsa. In this one, I'm using the Racing Studios Formula America's 2020s mod, and honestly, I was really surprised by how good it is. The cars handle really nicely, and the AI is actually quite friendly and really fun to race against. I would put this mod actually a lot higher on this list, but Assetto Corsa is missing some key things like rolling starts, cautions, and some other things. Number 3 on this list is Automobilista 2. Now, some quick info on AMS2. This game has a DLC called Racing USA, which features the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as well as some old school early noughties, late 90s kart race cars. The version of Indy in this game is awesome, and the race cars are amazing at road courses, but I'll be honest, I'm really not a fan of how they drive at ovals. The cars feel way too loose and they fully drift through every corner. AMS2 was actually so close to releasing their version of a modern IndyCar though, but a week before launch, they announced that that car was being put on hold indefinitely because of the Motorsport Games licensing agreement. Basically, this car looks too much like an actual Indy car, and while this is a bummer, Reitzer has gone back to the drawing board and designed the FUSA 2023, which will be released on the sim very, very soon. It's not technically an Indy car, it's just an open wheeler, but it is a car that can race at Indy. Number 2 on this list, I actually thought was going to be number 1, but I had such a painful experience playing it recently that I decided otherwise. This game is rFactor 2, and rFactor is owned by Motorsport Games, and we're driving the official in-house DLC IR18. The good thing about this car is that it looks great. Honestly, this is the best looking Indy car on this entire list, and the DLC comes with all the liveries from the IndyCar season, so the full grid looks really, really awesome. If you're racing online or solo, I'm sure this car could be a lot of fun. I enjoyed driving it on my own, but otherwise it was frustrating. I was pulling my hair out. Now, my number 1 sim to race the Indy 500 on is perhaps a little unsurprising. It is iRacing. iRacing is pretty much the only sim to really get oval racing, I feel, and it shows. The IR18 in iRacing feels glued, apart from in the aero wash from the cars in front, where the front really wants to push up the track into the wall. These cars drive how you would expect, and it even kind of looks like an Indy 500 from real life, the way that the racing kind of ebbs and flows. The AI also worked flawlessly. I didn't even know that the IndyCar had it enabled in iRacing, and I had a bunch of fun racing them. Also, there is a DW12 and an IR05 as well, so there's 3 generations of IndyCar you can go racing in. The bummer with iRacing though is that the Indy 500 official race is no more. The Indy 500 special event is my favorite iRacing event of the year. So many people sign up to race it, anybody can do it, and the racing is a heap of fun for experts and for newcomers to sim racing. I've done it pretty much every year since like at least 2017, and I still remember in like 2018 or 19, I led in the final 10 laps and I ran out of fuel on the final lap in the lead. It still haunts me to this day, but that race is so important. Unfortunately, with the Motorsport Games licensing agreement, this event is not running. Even with that though, the sim is a bunch of fun to play with AI or even online. I highly recommend finding 32 mates and having your own Indy 500 on it. I think it would be a lot of fun. So that's my top 8 list of sims to play the Indy 500 on. Do you think I missed anything, or you think I should be removing some stuff from this list? Feel free to let me know in the comments. Otherwise, if you like the list, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to Overtake for more sim racing videos. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.